Hey everyone, welcome to Grain Therapy, the woodworking podcast where we discuss our passions, methods, and personal growth as we build our woodworking businesses. This week we're looking at ourselves from different angles, and we know it can be challenging and vulnerable, but it's necessary when running a business, brand, or trying to find community. Matt and I explore a little more about what it feels like to be on social media and what we're hoping to accomplish with our brands. We discuss plans for our website and tangential details to get the word of our businesses out there. This podcast can be found anywhere you like to listen. If you find value in it, please leave us a comment or review. So sit back and watch, listen while you work, or put us on in the background. Either way, we hope you enjoy.
Okay. Were you drinking a beer? Is that what I saw?
I am drinking a beer.
What are you having?
Flavor Wave IPA from Indeed Brewing.
Indeed.
Pretty good.
Is it hazy?
I think, let's see. So I know they have a hazy. I think this is just an India Pale Ale. So it's hoppy. I like the hoppy stuff.
Yeah, I like that stuff a lot too. I'm also drinking. It makes talking a little bit easier unless you have too much. I'm having some Eagle Rare. So
okay.
I don't know if you're into bourbon at all, but
my wife is the whiskey and bourbon drinker.
Really? I gotta chat with her then. That'd be cool.
Absolutely.
Does she collect it at all or anything, or just enjoys it?
Just enjoys it. We've been to Kentucky and did some of the bourbon tours, and that I had to try it. I'm not gonna, even though I'm not like a huge fan of bourbon or whiskey, I still tried everything, and It was cool. But she was obsessed with a lot of it, and it's a fun trip.
So cool.
Yeah,
that's fun. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's an acquired taste for sure, but once you get hooked, it's fun to try to catch them all. Get all the different bottles.
Yeah. So. Absolutely, I'm a gin guy, so I like Vicar up in Duluth.
Okay,
that's my jam. That's my speed.
Okay, yeah, I like gin too. I think I don't have any big gins. Like if I'm making a gin cocktail, I just buy Aviation or something because it's super approachable. It's just kind of not too pine sol and just kind of more chill.
So much juniper.
Yeah. But I mean, I like them all. I like tequila. I like everything, but whiskey's definitely, obviously, whiskey Woodshop. Whiskey's the best for me at least. So yeah. So what'd you work on this week?
So this week was a little bit of an audible week. I've been working on trying to get this table done, the gaming table, and it's got the linear actuators, so the table lifts up. All bells and whistles. We talked a little bit about it last week. But this week, my wife took a few days off of work, and we've been meaning to do a little bit more intentional work on my website. So it's been a really long time since I've made updates. I kind of just slapped it together at the beginning, and just to have something for place for customers to land, and didn't put a whole lot of thought into it. It was just kind of get it up, do what I could, and then get back in the shop, just start making money in the business. So yeah, spent a lot of time doing that this week. I'd love to get more into that if you have questions, but I want to hear what you were up to first this week.
Yeah. So I had to give up a weekend. As you know, I'm working in my free time. I had to give up a weekend because I've been trying to get personal projects done too. So this last weekend, I was working outside the whole weekend on an outdoor kitchen. So earlier in the summer, I poured a portion of a slab. It's kind of this L-shaped slab next to a patio that we already had out there. And just trying to put in a built-in spot for the grill, Blackstone, and a little pizza oven. It's a propane pizza oven. So trying to have that built in and then have an island to where people can sit, because we try to host people out. We just like having friends over and making food and stuff. So
how can you do that?
I mean, not as often as I'd like because I'm always in the shop and stuff. But
yeah, that's always the answer. But
we used to have people over every week, random weeknights, just not even for anything fancy. We're not great cooks or anything, but just enjoy having people over. And we always do a big summer, end of July party kind of thing where people come from out of town that I went to college with. And so we just try to pull everybody back together at least one summer or one weekend a year. It's usually in the summer, so we can do stuff in Minnesota and it's not terrible outside. So so this last weekend, there's no shop projects. It was all personal projects. So it was just framing with some metal studs. the outdoor kitchen, and then I was building some forms out of melamine for the concrete countertops.
Okay.
And so I've done them before. I did a custom vanity with concrete countertops before.
Okay.
And so I did 2 different pours, and I just used the better countertop in the vanity. Just I was trying to see how it turned out, because on your first pour you really don't know how it's going to go.
Yeah.
So was making a big mold. This outdoor kitchen is going to need 13 different concrete pieces.
Whoa.
Because I'm going up the sides of each unit. So the unit that holds the pizza oven has a left side, top, right side, and then the unit that has the Blackstone has way more involved, because the Blackstone's actually set in on it. So it goes up the left, top, down, over to hold the Blackstone, up, right top, and then the right side. So that's 7 concrete pieces just for the Blackstone unit. And then we have the island, and it's a whole. So it's kind of terrifying.
I imagine you did it all in CAD too, right?
No, well, yeah, I did. I did the framing in CAD. So I just did the ghost boxes of, this is going to be my framed area.
Okay.
And so I knew to just frame to the outside of that area. And then the concrete's pretty easy, because even if I'm an 1/8 inch long, they have the overhang because it's a counter. So like it's outside. None of the surfaces are mating. So I have a 26 inch counter. And then I found out melamine, I feel like I knew this, but I always relearn it. Melamine's an inch bigger on both sides. So it's not 96 by 48, it's 47 by 97.
Yeah.
And ripping a sheet of melamine, taking just an inch off, is probably my least favorite thing in the world. So I decided, hey, each countertop's getting half an inch more on the two molds that I'm doing. So I basically just made the concrete pieces to fit the melamine. So it's kind of like a design for the materials I have versus because it really won't matter when it's outside if I have an extra half inch of countertop, which now I do. So, but yeah, I'm going to be pouring on Wednesday here. So hopefully it goes well.
Yeah. That's awesome. You should try to show it somehow. Bring in your sketchbook.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't have anything in front of me here. With it, it's all out in a pile of dust in the shop. But we'll definitely talk details in the future, but nothing super big on the cabinet I've been working on. I made the mid shelf and drilled the holes for the adjustable pins, and just little stuff like that. Started sanding, filled some holes, did some brass inlay. So it was all pretty easy, and just next thing on the list, right? So
yeah. So with your day job, how many hours a week do you think you're getting in the shop, and how many? I mean, you obviously wish you could get more, right?
Right.
But do you have like a scheduled, like, Thursday I'm in the shop no matter what, or is it kind of like a little bit every day, or how do you tackle that?
Right. So my weekends have turned into, with summer and at the age we're at, like, it's either weddings or people trying to do something. Or birthdays, or it's just so much happens in the Minnesota summer, because the winter just turns into lockdown almost. Poor choice of words, but hey, we all hide away in the winter unless we're into snow sports or something. But the weekdays are where I try to get the meat of the real work done if I'm not pushing the project. So this next week, I'm going to be trying to push this cabinet done, because I sacrificed that last weekend for the personal project. So I think I get around 15 hours a week in the shop.
Okay.
Roughly. Sometimes it's more. It's really, if there's a project that needs to get delivered, stuff shifts a lot. So I think I get probably 2 hours on a Monday, and then 4 hours on Tuesday, 4 hours on Wednesday. And then Thursdays I do a volunteering thing, and I end up getting home at like 8:30, and I don't want to get in the shop at that point. So I usually skip that. And then, I'm bartering time. I'm trying to give time to my friends and my wife and my family, but also try to get things done. So I think I probably average around 15 to 20 hours a week in the shop.
Yeah, you're a busy guy.
I try to be, and now we're doing this kind of thing, but this is going to, like we talked about last week in the first episode, these kind of conversations are going to help save me time later. Just talking through things and getting ideas and input from you too.
And just excitement, right? Yeah. So all of it.
Yeah.
Well, super cool, man. I think back before I went full time, it was kind of the same, like around showtime, I'd be in there a lot more. Or yeah, like you said, a delivery. That was always stressful because it's like right on the cusp of like, all right, customer, I think I've got 2 weeks left, and then for me, it's like, okay, I just told them 2 weeks, I better try to hit that 2 weeks, and then you run into all this extra stuff that you didn't expect.
So when you hit those 2 weeks, are you more comfortable delaying now? If you've had more experience by, okay, I've got the last couple details, I don't want to mess them up, or do you speed up toward the end of the project?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because last week we talked a little bit about the phases that you experience.
Right.
If we're talking specifically the end phase, I think for me, the temptation is wanting to rush and get it done. And I usually end up compromising with myself. I try to rush a little bit more, put a little more extra hours in there, but I am really cognizant of like, because I'm rushing, if I have to actually tell myself to slow down, and by slowing down, I usually will do a bunch of rushing and then take a day off from it, and then try to work on something else, and then come back and do a little bit more rushing, and then take another day off. Because if I spend too much time on one thing that I'm rushing through it, that's when I start to make mistakes and then get really upset.
And then you're doing rework, and now you've extended the time even more, right?
Yeah. So when I'm at the end, what I try to do is get a coat of finish on something, and usually the mix I make takes over a day to cure if you're doing it the best. Like obviously you can put it on a little before that fully cured window, but then that forces me to just wait till that next thing cures, and then I can get back in the shop and work on stuff.
Right.
That seems to help me, but it's still tough to manage.
Well, and you get excited too. It's not only the deadline, you get excited because you're almost done and you're ready for that next project. You're ready to see it complete. You're ready to take the pictures, post it, whatever it is. So it's the excitement, but also you're just kind of done with the project too. You mentioned a specific mix that you use for finish. Is that proprietary, or what type of base do you have in there?
So it's not proprietary. It was actually a friend in the shared space. He has since now moved to a different studio, but Steve is his name. He calls it the Maloof finish. I don't know much woodworking history, and I actually need to know more about that. Who are the big players in the game? I just know who I follow on YouTube and stuff. But the Maloof finish, so it's a urethane base. It's like 1 part urethane, half a part boiled linseed, half a part tung oil, half a part mineral spirits.
Oh wow!
So
okay.
I just mix all that, and then the first coat I apply. So then I sand up to at least 220. Sometimes I'll go a little bit further. I typically don't go past 220 for most things because I like the really textured wood feel. I don't like the plasticky feel.
Right.
And then so the first coat you apply, you let cure for over 24 hours. Ideally 48 if you can. And then every coat after that, you just apply with steel wool. So it's rubbing the dust nibs off as you're soaking more finish into it.
Wow. So I'd expect the steel wool to kind of scratch your sanded surface, but is it kind of a light steel wool?
I use 4-aught, and it really it gets soaked up with the finish so well that it actually becomes smoother than you would think. Yeah. And so you apply that, you wet every surface, let that sit for half an hour to an hour, and then you wipe it clean with a dry paper towel every time. I'm sure if the steel wool is scratching it, that's what's kind of getting that last bit of the finish layer over the complete top surface.
Sure.
But then it's dry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that for your consumer kitchen product, like your cheese boards and your other products, or is that for everything?
I should correct that. So this is for just furniture, stuff that's not going to be eaten off of.
I figured.
For any of the kitchen or food safe items, I make my own mixture of mineral oil, beeswax, and a little bit of carnauba wax. Okay. And typically that goes directly on, and that's it, just with a paper towel. If it's an end grain board, then I'll do a little bit of soaking in mineral oil before I put that on. Sure. Otherwise that's just Yeah, really easy. I prefer easy finishes that I can't mess up because it's just a lot. Yeah, because I have the tendency to rush. Might as well do something that I'm not going to create more work for myself.
Right. So both you're wiping on with some type of white rag or something? Shop
Yeah,
rag?
I use Amazon, like this blue paper towel, and it
Yep.
works great. Very little lint, or it doesn't break apart. So it's tough.
Nice.
We
So
can share it if we need
the
to.
exactly. The the furniture that was basically a two coat then, by the way.
um, I'd four
Oh, it's
coats.
four. Sorry, I might have missed that.
Yep. So
Four
it's
coats.
yeah, and so 2, 3, and 4 are all applied with steel wool, and then I'll sometimes hit it with a really light steel wool after it's fully cured after that fourth coat.
Mhm.
And that's where I have to be careful with the scratches, but it still needs something to like clear off those final dust nibs and things like that.
Sure. Instead of like doing the light sand first, cleaning off, and then applying your finish, it kind of does it at the same time.
Yeah.
Very patient though with four coats that have to cure. That's
Yeah, and I'd be lying if I said I did 4 coats every time. It kind of depends on deadlines, how much I think the thing's gonna be handled, how
yeah.
much
What's the exposure?
like if it's a chessboard, I'm gonna make sure I do 4 coats because that's
Right.
gonna get a lot of wear and tear. If it's like I don't know, like a side table that's like inside your entryway, I might skip 1 or 2 just to
Sure.
make sure it's durable. I do some testing on undersides of surfaces. I try to scratch it to see how difficult it is. So I never let anything go that I'm not sure that it's going to last for what it's being used for. But yeah, there are shortcuts you can take sometimes.
Yeah. What do you what do you do for protecting the piece once you get the coat on it? Because I always find I put finish on it and then it's in the corner of the shop and it's too heavy for me to lift. Bring somewhere else that's safe of dust, and I want to get the next part rolling on something else. Do you just leave for the night? Just plan it timing wise?
I kind of do the same thing, and sometimes bad things happen.
Mm,
I think this last time, the last gaming table I did, I was a lot more careful just because that thing took me so many hours. That as soon as I was done, I bought moving blankets and taped it around it.
mm,
So completely anything that was going to bump in the corner moving through doors, it was covered by a moving blanket,
yeah,
taped so it couldn't fall off or anything
yeah,
else happen.
it's stuck there. Yeah, the moving blankets is key. But yeah, I always just find I don't want to set anything on it. I don't want to cover it while it's still trying to finish or
That's
cure. But
Yeah, that's a nice thing. I mean, you're in your garage, so it's a little different. But I'm in a big studio space, and we actually have like a room that we let our finishing stuff cure in.
nice. That
And so
would be key.
we've got a hole cut out in the building wall and a fan installed in it, and then like a furnace filter cut out of the square of the door to get into that room. So the
Yep.
fan's on when anything's in the room, and it's just pulling air through it. So that's a super convenient thing that I was not able to do when I was just out of my garage.
Nice. That would almost force you to do one of the website weeks like you did where maybe you go put some finish on and then retreat back into the space without the dust and work on the website. So
Yeah.
was that all week that you were doing that? What kind of work were you doing and how did it go?
Yeah, I think it went really well. So mostly what I did. So my wife and I sat down and kind of like talked about. So we talk a lot about our finances in general, and so one of the things that was a big decision in taking my business full time was figuring out, what's the lifestyle I want to live, like what are the requirements, what kind of revenue do I need to be making in my business for that
Right.
all to be comfortable. This was finally like a really big discussion, that it was like the next step past that. And so just like as a heads up, this is 3 years into my business, and we just now had this like big vision discussion as like a team about. It's obviously been in the back of my head a lot, but yeah. So I use that conversation of like, hey, let's make this intentional time. Let's set it aside. Let's have this conversation as like it's a way that I've spoken more of my goals out loud to the world, and my wife's going to hold me accountable to that better than I can on my own when things
Sure.
start getting hard. And so it was a lot just like, what do I want to be? what am I trying to accomplish other than just the woodworking here? And yeah, just so I changed up, I updated the About Me page where I just went into more explanation about what my mission is, why I ended up in this business, what am I trying to do. Business is a vehicle for financial freedom in the future, hopefully, but it's also for other things too, like we talked about last week, where I'm hoping I can share more of my story. And I'm an overthinker and an overplanner. I talk about this when we have our little powwow meeting right before we hit record, and that's a request from my side because it's like I struggle to just jump into things. Anyway, so all that said, yeah, I was able to air more of that out and talk about it together, and I wrote a bunch of things and then made sure from her perspective, like when I say this, is this something that sounds like it's authentically me? Like you read this and you're like, oh, that is Brian speaking, and so verifying that, like at first, when I first set up the website just to get something up there, it was more like, this is a cutting board. This is how you take care of the cutting board. And it's like all information that's good and needed and is going to build trust with the customer. But now it's more about like, can you tell this is me speaking? If you were to talk one-on-one with me, does it feel the same way? And so it's just kind of modifying to that. And that was really hard for me. I mean, I can even hear in my voice right now, I'm a little nervous talking about it.
Okay.
Just because that's a hard step to take, where it's just like, all right, here I'm putting me out there. Yeah. So that was what I did.
I think that's important to your brand too, because you're not just Bossman Boutique. Now you are putting your voice into it to where it's Brian within Bossman's Boutique. So you're not putting on you're not just another brand. You're not just trying to copy what you see online and say, oh, this is what other people say. You're saying this is how I would talk about it, and then that's going to come off more authentic to anybody who's actually looking at your website, thinking about buying. As long as you sound like you know what you're talking about, which you obviously do because you're making those pieces, I think it's just going to come off better to the audience too.
Yeah, yep, exactly it. And I think it took me a while to like a lot of like absorbing, Instagram stuff. I don't know what kind of things you follow on your Instagram, but like for my woodworking Instagram, I follow people who talk about YouTube and what's important about creating YouTube content and what about Instagram content. And I follow woodworkers and I see what their examples are. But there's also all these tangential things that are more related to running a business, to try to identify what do I need to grow into to make my dreams happen. And so being authentically you is that cliche that's like, okay, yeah, just be yourself on social media. It sounds super easy. It actually feels really vulnerable no matter what the situation is, until you do it enough where you build up that comfortability. And yeah, so yeah, what's that been like for you?
Well, I mean, even what we're doing right now is an example of that, to where I'm still cautious of words that I say, but in reality, this is a conversation we'd be having either way. And I think I'd be saying the same things, but I'm trying to be as authentic as possible, but stay relevant to the topics that we're covering and not get sidetracked and not say something I don't mean, but in reality, everything I say is exactly what I mean. So we're just doing a circle here. And so I just need to be myself and chat with you here. So it's that same thing where people are just getting numb to it. I think like once you post enough, once you put yourself out there enough, you're kind of numb to it. I think I'm interested to get your point of view on this. I think my biggest issue or nerves come from when people I know watch what I do and take it as me believing it's the perfect finished product, because I can't ever create the perfect finished product probably on the first try, right? So everything I post, I'm still learning. I'm trying to figure this out, and I'm throwing ideas out. I'm spitballing. Right now, I don't know the next words that I'm going to say, right? So I don't want anybody to think this is exactly what I've worked on for so long. It's ready to go. It's refined. It's raw, and it's a growth opportunity, right? What we're doing here. So when the nerves come, I picture somebody who knows me well seeing what I put out that like you had mentioned, when you set up your website, you get it set up just enough to be a platform and a landing zone and somewhere where clients can see that you are legit. You have a website, you have a spot where you can buy the product or contact or inquire for other questions. So, but that's not the end website, right? So I'm going to refine it as we go, but I just need to get something out there. So I think when people I know in the daily life see what I post, they feel like they were there too in a way, and they feel like they understand how the project went. Like in these reels that are 60 seconds and something like that, they feel like they're there, or they at least know how the whole project went. But it was way harder than the 60 seconds you saw, or there's a whole part where I messed this up and I cut that out, or so. And then they might talk to you the next day or whenever they happen to see you next and say like, what I found, maybe this is different for you. I'll cut the rant off shortly here, but they'll say something like, "Oh, nice table," and it catches me off guard because I don't know that they saw it, but I know anybody could have seen it. So, but I'm not actively thinking about everything I posted all the time. So, because I'm trying to post regularly, people who make just spontaneous conversation about what I love talking about, I'm so happy to talk about it. I don't want anybody to think I'd rather not talk about it. But I just, even in me saying this now, I'm picturing people hearing this and then later saying, "I like what you said in episode 2." It's like, well, I said a lot of stuff. Some of it was probably okay, and other stuff probably was irrelevant. But it's just that the people I know in the middle of the day, strangers, it's a little easier for me because I might not see them ever. But what's your thought?
I'm gonna try to paint more detail to the picture that I think you're painting. Because I heard what you're saying and could take it a few different ways. But so I'm going to ask a few questions first. So you said you picture somebody who, like, they think they were there throughout the whole project or whatever. Are you saying? You said your nerves come into it. Do your nerves come into it when you picture that person being there with you, or the nerves come because it's people that you know might think something different than what your actual experience was? What are the nerves? The second one. Okay.
The second one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's exactly what I'm like. So it's just intentionality, and when I say intentionality, it's more like, I'll use a dumb example, and I'll use Paige, my wife, as an example. So sorry, Paige, in advance, but I just think it's a funny thing. So she sent me a reel the other day that was like about this wife was just like, my husband's a genius. Like, he came up with this spreadsheet. So when we're planning meals for the week, we can just click radio button, click what recipes we want to make this week, and then it just generates a topping list. And
sounds awesome.
It sounds awesome. And so like just previously, like a week before that, I had suggested we do something similar.
Oh,
and it was received with not very much enthusiasm. And so like I took it as like, okay, maybe this wasn't as a good idea as I thought. And then she sent me the reel without any context, and I was like, yeah, that's super cool, but are you forgetting that like I suggested this a week ago, or is that why you're sending it to me? Or like, if you just said, this is why I'm sending it to you, then I understand the intention. So this is like the intentionality of communication is what I'm starting to talk about here. And so like, I also get thrown way off my rhythm when like somebody's like, hey, that looks great. And it's like, yeah, thank you, appreciate it. But like, anybody can just see the post and like say that's a great table, and like, but do you actually want to engage with me? Like, is this an invitation to start a conversation, or is it just you saying, hey, that's neat? And I'm okay with either, but I struggle to try to initiate the conversation sometimes if I don't understand your intention. And so then it's harder for me to be vulnerable and just do it anyway, which is I'm learning what I need to do. And so this is just my personal journey, because it's hard for me to connect when I'm not sure if you want to connect with me.
Okay.
If you're just admiring my work, that's one thing, but that doesn't mean that we're going to have a place where we meet and really enjoy each other's company or conversation or whatever. I always want to try, but sometimes it's harder to try if I don't understand the intention.
Right.
Sure. I'm on my own rant, but I think
Rants
it's
are perfect.
And so, what was your question about all of that?
I think the question was, do you get nervous, or maybe not nervous, but do you notice when people jump in assuming that that they saw the post? And that's not a great way to say it, but
Yeah.
I don't know who sees the post unless they comment and
Yeah.
I respond
Yeah.
or like it or whatever. So then, if I see somebody at work and they jump into it, I would rather them say, "What are you working on?" Even though they know what I'm working on, like be like, "Oh, then I saw that post. That was cool that you did
Sure.
this XYZ." Because then I feel less vulnerable, where it just makes me feel when I'm walking around in the day, anybody could have seen what I did in the shop yesterday and I have no idea. And so
Mm-hmm.
it shows the vulnerability of posting something that you truly worked on and you're trying to refine and make as your product. I'm trying to make this as good as I can, and I know I'm posting it for the world to see, and I know
Mm-hmm.
X number of people liked it or whatever, but I don't know who those people are. And so I just feel like I got eyes on me sometimes in a
Sure.
weird way, even though I like the people I'm talking to because I know them well, right? I
Yeah.
think that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I think yeah, it's a tough one to figure out, and so I'm trying to assess the words and the word choice that you're using and see what I can add to your specific flavor. And I don't think we have the same flavor, so I'm going to try
Sure.
to speak to my own a little bit. I get more nervous around the nerves come for me when I think that, and maybe it is the same thing you're saying, when people think that the talent or the thing that I finish and present at the end, I get nervous that they think that is my absolute best effort, because it never is.
Right.
And I get nervous when they, on the flip side of that too, is if they assume that it's all just talent and not skills I've had to build.
Mm-hmm.
And then they assume, okay, this is just talent. He's showing his thing. He's doing his thing. He's good at his thing, which is all great stuff. But I'd rather be appreciated for that, and the way I want to share what my experience was through that time. Because typically, like with a hard project, comes a hard period of growth too for me.
Right.
And so I want to know that they're here for that too. Otherwise the engagement feels empty, and I don't think that it always is, but that's just my natural inclination, is to have it feel that way. And then that makes me feel bad that I even feel that way, and that's what tumbles the anxiety and the nervousness.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know. I think we're getting to that same point here. I think we're narrowing in on that same feeling in your gut that you want to put it out, and it's good, but it's not as good as I wanted it, maybe. And I don't want anybody to think I'm done, because I'm not done yet. We're going up still. We're learning, and we're struggling through things, and we're getting better every project, especially when you look at what you were building last year or 2 years ago. I can't even compare to what I'm doing now.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes me excited for what I'm going to be doing in 5 years.
Yeah.
And if I can just continue to focus on the quality and the design, I'm going up that roller coaster here, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm done. So it's that same point that you were kind of getting to there.
Yeah. So it sounds like, for me, like I very much recognize I still don't fully accept it all the time, but I recognize that a lot of my personality is around of external sources of telling me that I'm good or my work is good. And I'm not as good as internally reassuring myself that I'm good regardless of the stuff, right? So it's just more of the ideal is that I feel so good about the thing that I post that it doesn't matter what anybody says.
Right.
But then you have to balance that with, all right, this is a new thing that I'm doing, because, ideally I'm just in the shop, and I think you're the same here. Ideally, I'm just spending time in my shop making stuff, and I'm not thinking about the social media. So I can put more time into my woodworking. But with today's just the way the environment is, we also have to be on social media and be authentic. And like, it's so easy. If somebody comes into my shop and asks me a question about what I'm doing and we're having an in-person, relationship thing, that's so easy to have that conversation. But as soon
Mm-hmm.
as you put that wall of I'm posting this on my phone and it's going out to whoever can see it, and I have no idea who they are or what they might say, and you know, it's that it just becomes that external thing that nothing can prepare you for until you just start doing it and get used to it.
Yeah. It's definitely it's just a vulnerability, and you're almost defenseless because it could reach a few people or way more people than you think. And
Mm-hmm.
some of the crazy things that go viral for no reason too. So
Mm-hmm.
not that every time I'm posting, I'm like, oh, this could really go somewhere, but it's just like, it's just out in the open and you're just yelling something into the room full of everyone on the internet. And only some people are going to hear it because that's the reach that I have, right? There's this group of woodworkers and people
Yeah.
that like the furniture that I build, but it's still, there's an ultimate vulnerability of, hey, this is what I just did. And then you get to receive feedback, and people are overall on Instagram, no one's talking trash on
Right.
stuff that I'm building. So it's positive, but there's still a vulnerability in I don't want to be defined by my last project. I want it to be a forecast. I want you to look at the line that I'm building in the projects,
Mm-hmm.
and I want you to see what I'm building next and
Mm-hmm.
understand where I'm reaching, where I'm trying
Yeah.
to get.
Yeah, and like, and really, the only people who are gonna, I don't want to say only or like cause fear. Like that's not the intention of what I'm about to say. What I'm about, I want to say, the people who are gonna be there to see. All right, here was his last post, a year ago. Here was the post today. What do I think that post is gonna look like in a year? Are only gonna be the people who are like, I like this guy. Like I want to
Right.
follow him for reasons, right? And so
Mhm.
like the goal is to present what those reasons of why people should follow me so they can see that journey. But then I have to tell them, why should you follow me? When at the
Mhm.
end of the day, it's like, really all I'm doing is following my passion. So it's
Sure.
not, I've never had to think about until I started the business, like, why would you tune into what I'm doing? Because like I don't necessarily do that unless I really admire a person and then saying, okay, I'm in a spot where I'm hoping that people follow me because they admire me. I get overwhelmed and like imposter syndrome and like,
Right.
what do I possibly have? And so I struggle
Sure.
with that. And that's where a lot of the nerves come from me.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the same and you just haven't articulated it yet, or a combination of all of the things. But yeah, it's more of just like your business is, and your online following is gonna grow to the degree that you've grown your own self worth. And
Yeah.
that's a belief that I carry, whether or not it's true. I'm living that way.
I think that could be a quote. I think you could pull that out as
And
something.
I probably heard that somewhere too. I listen to a lot of
Still
podcasts.
write it, put your name behind it. Michael Scott. That's a really good mindset to have too, because it brings it back on you then, and then it's your
Mm-hmm.
responsibility to go as far as you're gonna go. And
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah. I mean, there's so many different types of nerves that I get in any type of social media, but like it's just that idea that I could be taken out of context by people that I know. It's strangers. Hey, we're all
Yeah.
people. Like I might never see these people again, so it's
Mm-hmm.
okay. But it's the people I know. I don't want them to take me out of context, and I'm trying to work through stuff. I'm workshopping here, so
Yeah.
we got to figure stuff out and build this up. So, and I don't, there's a second little part of it, and I know we've talked on this for a while, so I don't want to go too deep back into where I already ranted. But it's when they think they know all the details, and the conversation can't really go anywhere because they don't have much to ask because they're under the understanding that they saw what they needed to see,
Yeah.
and maybe they don't have the question. So that also I'm realizing now puts it on me to explain what actually they didn't see. Yeah, hey, turns out this
Yeah.
happened. Learned a lot here. This is what else happened. Maybe it was terrible, but then be more optimistic on now that it's over. Now I learned X, Y, Z. But there was, I mean, an example, which we don't need to get into big details here either, because I could talk all day on this little topic too. But back in 2017, I took a trip down the Mississippi River with my best friend. We kayaked from the Lake Itasca to the Gulf, and we were posting every day. It took us 51 days, and we were posting on Facebook, and we were raising money for some clean water in Africa. But that was selfishly, that wasn't the reason we did it. We already wanted to do it, and then we happened to fundraise because it was a good platform to do it.
Perfect way to do that. Yeah.
Right. So to get to the social media part, we were posting on Facebook every day, just like a quick check-in. Hey, everybody, this is what we did. This is where we are. It's hot. It sucks. Blah, blah, blah. And then I think this feeling I have comes back to this trip back in 2017, because when I got back, people watched it every day. And people from our church, our school, everywhere felt like they knew everything that happened because they watched literally every day what else could have happened. But they saw a minute when we were just in one town, but we went 50 miles that day, or, whatever it is. And there's so much more that happened. And even my close relatives, they don't even know what to ask because they feel like they know it all. And I don't want to, I'm trying to keep humility here too, to not be like always talking about stories of that, even though I'm so stoked about what I just did. And so it's the same kind of thing with these small wood projects where, or bigger pieces of furniture, where I don't want to be always yapping about what I just did. I want to have a dialogue where people can ask questions, and then I can ask them what they've been working on or whatever it is. But when they think they know everything that just happened in the shop from that 60-second reel, it's hard to get in that conversation.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, use like therapy language, but there's a lot to unpack there. Right? There's a lot of things happening at the same time that are like difficult to discern, where the feeling comes from. But I think when I hear you talk, and it's like you're obviously passionate about the thing that you're sharing. And sometimes we have a tendency, it's just a natural human tendency to always share the best of and not all the bad things all the time. But I guess it comes down to communication. And I define good communication as, and this is going to be different for everybody. This is just my definition, where I define it as I'm telling you an idea in a way, and I'm giving you enough information where it's difficult for you to misinterpret my point. And I think I go a little too far on that side, because I try to protect myself from being misunderstood as just it's a protection mechanism, right?
Sure.
But it's just one that I suffer from in sometimes more acute ways than I see other people. But as long as I can communicate in a way where you understand the point, you can ask a question and we can verify what that point is, I'm always going to feel better about it. And I'm not going to worry as much about the things that might creep in. But then the other thing I'm thinking about that's happening at the same time as you described that trip, and you're posting 50 days worth and people are following every day and think they were there, is they're tuning into you for 50 days in a row because they appreciate what you have to say about it. So even though you want to open up the space for them to talk to, that might not be what they're looking for. They just want to give you praise. And that, for me, that's an uncomfortable place for me to find myself, is only getting praise and not being able to give it back. That's hard.
Exactly.
So maybe that's the same for you. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. I feel like it needs to be an exchange. And when the social media just always does a spotlight, and it feels braggadocious, or some big word, to just I'll always post about myself and not get to see what other people are working on too. And I want to exchange, I want to hear what you're working on and compliment you on your effort and your detail and everything that you're doing. So that's why I really enjoy these kind of conversations too, because it's a circle, not just an arrow pointing towards just whatever I posted. It's not what I want.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I think the more intention you bring to it, the more you get what you want, and the more you are able to then verify whether other parties are getting what they want when they're there at the table with do too.
Sure.
And so that's something that I have to constantly remind myself of. I have to constantly remind myself, like, people who are asking questions about me are trying to get information from me to help their life, not necessarily the thing that I want to say to them to try to help their life.
Sure.
They're trying to get what they already think that they need. And so, and that, I don't know if what I'm saying sounds like significant, but like that's a thing that I've had to realize the farther I get into my business. And again, that's another uncomfortable place. And I always want to have more of the relationship if we can, and it works. And like, no matter what, I'm going to try to make sure you've got what you need. But sometimes they already do just by having talked to you and you reply, and
Sure.
that's tough. And that sounds braggadocious, even though I think it's just sometimes the reality. And we have to, and yeah, be cognizant, do what you think is right. And yeah, anytime we have nerves in general, I think is us consciously or unconsciously acknowledging that we might live outside of the way that we want to live. And so focus on that.
That's another good. Take that one, clip that, because that is a quote right there. It's that butterfly moment when you're saying something that you don't know if you're comfortable enough to say, but it's very true.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like you were sharing about when you were talking through your plan with your wife when you're going through the website, and also like putting something on the website and is this authentically me? It's that what am I actually trying to say? And that's for the brand, and that's for everything we post and why we do what we do too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and it's hard to put it in words on paper where people can see, no matter if it's good or bad or authentic or not. Like, it's going to be hard no matter what when you get to that stuff.
So what were the main changes you made to the website? You said it was mostly structured already. Did you change the layout, the actual flow of it? Do you have way more pages? What did you do?
Yeah, so really it's actually been, this week was mostly like the planning and like strategy talk, and like we're getting ideas on paper. What I actually did change to the website as of now is pretty much just the About Me page. I also didn't like the way my gallery was. So like because I was kind of at a beginning stage, it's like I don't have these like huge pieces that I've done yet where I'm just like, all right, here's one project, go see all the pictures about that one project. Where before it was like, here, I've done a bunch of cutting boards. Here's all the pictures of the cutting boards I've done.
Scroll through. Here's an Instagram feed. Yeah.
I just didn't like the way that was. So now I'm getting ready to adjust, like just better organization. Like, how can people go to the website without having to read every word, just kind of get a feeling for who I am and like what they can expect working with me. So didn't make a whole lot of changes. It's just more of the planning, getting ready to make changes. Yeah.
That's cool though. That's really like you're structuring it as an outside observer who understands that they're not reading. No one's really reading unless they're really dragged in. And I forget what they say. You have 15 seconds or whatever it is, 30 seconds before somebody clicks off. So it's probably not even that. It's probably 6 seconds now or whatever it is. But
it's probably a lot less. And so hoping to just like really like condense that information. And I'm lengthy and wordy, and I think you are too, which is why we talk so well together. But so I tried to condense that to like what are the most important ideas and just get that out there. And so I don't know if I can share if we want, but maybe I'm a little too nervous for that.
I mean, we can always come back to it too if you want. But what on like the technical side, what website are you building on? Is it a Squarespace, a WordPress, Squarespace? Are you enjoying that?
I think it I don't know. I think yes. Just
not a sponsor, but
not a sponsor. I don't think I know enough about it. I don't think I've like actually struggled with it enough. I'm really lucky that my wife is in product design from like a software developer side. She kind of manages the groups and tells them how do we make the experience and like the back end work together. Maybe I explained that terribly. She can correct me once she listens to this, but so she had some experience and she helps out a lot with that. But I think we picked Squarespace because they have a lot of templates and it's just easy, like to get started, get something out there initially.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't gotten to that point where I'm like, all right, here's me. I think the next time I update it, we'll be evaluating which client we're going with in a little more detail. But
Sure.
Squarespace has been good. It's mostly intuitive. What do you use?
So I'm on WordPress, and I was gonna do Squarespace because there's a million codes out there for, everybody's sponsored by Squarespace these days, so there you can find promos and stuff. But my wife, she does marketing and communication stuff, so she does a touch of this. But she recommended WordPress because it's supposed to be super customizable. So I was like,
Right.
okay, deal. Start WordPress, and I just go for blank as my template because I'm like, I'm going to customize this. I've done some basic type, I don't know, building of different formats and different things. I don't know. I'm really good with PowerPoint is what I was pretty much about to say. But
Sure.
I don't know. I've spent some time in front of a computer, so
Yeah.
I feel like I can figure out these different interfaces and things. If I can use Premiere Pro, I think I can use anything, right? So I could not get this blank template to do what I wanted it to do on WordPress.
Yeah.
I was literally going to start just figuring out how to code to the back end of it, and because I feel like I could pick that up way faster just from engineering stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was putting it off because I just couldn't get the dang machine to do what I wanted it to do and pop up correctly. So I said, screw it. And I watched a 2-hour YouTube video, and I said, I'm going to follow every step. And even if I make a website that's somebody else's website about selling something else, like plants was the example, was a website to sell plants.
Mm-hmm.
And I just followed every step. And within 2 or 2.5 hours, I had a website that blew my custom one out of the water on WordPress. And it was through basically a pre-template, but not, it was separate. You had to have some plugins and stuff I would have never known. Sure. And it was pretty editable now because it has this plugin that is the prime editing driver. Mm-hmm. So just using other people's knowledge gets you there so much faster. So I had to just swallow the pill and know that I couldn't handle this on my own. And then once I got the structure, then I went back through and I changed everything to my type. And I didn't keep the whole format of exactly the website I built in the video, mm-hmm. Made it what I wanted it to, but just those 2 hours saved me. I don't even, probably 200 because it was ridiculous on this custom format. But WordPress overall, I think was decent. It was a steep learning curve where I was just running into a brick wall, and it was my own fault.
Yeah. So. But it's a good lesson to learn too, right? Like at the same time, it's always good to have an idea of what goes into the thing that you're then either asking for help or getting help or whatever. So commendable that you wanted to totally customize it. That's
well, awesome. I was like, this will be perfect. I don't need a template. Like I typically just don't like the auto-generated stuff because it looks like everybody else's.
Yeah.
But I think you can get there by learning the tools and watching somebody do it. And then you can easily run through stuff. So that goes for not just building a website. That's everything.
Everything. Yeah. YouTube's a very cool place.
I feel like our parents grew up with encyclopedias, and we have YouTube, and that's
faster, more pertinent information for just about anything.
Yeah. So do you sell product often through your website or not super often? What's the importance level of your website to your business side rather than just your client onboarding background information, like just business wise?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I can't say it's the most important thing about like my business and managing like anything in, I guess I'll put in like the digital category. Like, it's very important that there's a place that people can search for like custom woodwork, and hopefully my website pops up. You gotta have really good SEO for that to happen. So that's again a whole different.
Would you like me to test it?
What's that?
You want me to test
Go ahead.
it?
Test it. See, we have woodworking or custom woodworking in Minneapolis. I'd be very surprised.
Custom Woodworking Minneapolis. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna give it a shot. But you can keep going for onboarding customers and everything.
Yeah, so I think it's really important just to have the site to look more official and like, okay, yeah, this company has their own website. Hopefully I can trust buying a product. I do sell all my products on there. So like all my kitchen items, my cribbage boards, chess boards when I make them, everything's there and for sale there. But I think most of my sales still today come through word of mouth. Um, Maybe saw me on Instagram and they're in the city that I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's been like a whole lot of traffic driven there that I've gotten extra business that I wouldn't have if I didn't have a website. I don't think that's the case, but obviously that's the goal. And depending on where my business goes in the future and what like my end goals, or I shouldn't say end goals because my goals I'll never have an end goal,
Right.
but um, it'll evolve and change over time. But right now it's mostly just to see. Yeah, I'm at the point where I want it to be the place where you see who I am, build up some trust. Maybe say like, even if I want a nice cutting board and I saw this other good one, this guy told me more about himself, and I like who he sounds like he is. Let's buy from there. Like that's the new plan. I hope that comes across more. And yeah, we'll hopefully, build on that community feel that I'm going for around my business too.
Right. I like what you said there about you told the customer more about yourself and you're more authentic, so then they're going to buy from you. And I think with the world heading to where it's going with so much technology and everything, the value of individuality and the person behind whatever's being purchased or traded or transferred is going to be pretty important. Everybody's talking about AI, and I don't know enough about it to talk about it. But when there's scammers everywhere, there's bad product everywhere. If you go on Amazon and you buy the first result, it's usually trash. If it looks way too cheap, it's sometimes you have the cheap knockoffs. So by showing yourself and your product and it's made by Brian in Minneapolis, and I can see that, then you're gonna trust the product more. And for the result, I did not see it pop up when I searched custom woodworking Minneapolis, but it did come up with like a lot of interior designers talking about custom woodworking. So not direct woodworkers. So I'm going to blame it on that, but it didn't pop up. So more work to do, especially, I'm not on there either. So neither of us popped up, but we'll get there at some point.
Yeah. It's more important right now, like in this space that I'm in, and it's probably the same for you. Like, even though I'm a few years ahead in terms of like, gone full time. I think we're probably both in that stage of it's just it's important that it's there, and it's important that we're evaluating whether or not it's a bottleneck, right? So like right now, the way my website is not losing me additional business.
Right.
It's not gaining me additional business, but it's definitely not losing me business. And so that's the priority right now with what my website is.
Yeah, that's a good point. It doesn't have to, if that's not your main source, like you're talking about the fairs and the word of mouth and everything, it doesn't need to be the end all be all, but it gives you that extra piece of authority too when people are wanting to check out your other work, wanting to see who you are, and you're not meeting everybody face to face all the time. So if they hear about you and they just want to make sure you sound legit, they can check that out. If it checks the box for them just enough to get you on the phone or whatever it is, job done. The website did work toward getting you the cash flow. So
and so then some other future plans, like just because I don't know how much we've talked about this, is like other things that I foresee for my business are creating plans and creating templates and like creating digital things that people can buy. And so like, once I'm ready to start launching some of that, I also am thinking about a YouTube channel. As that stuff becomes more real, then my website needs to serve a different purpose, and then I'll evaluate and change it for that. So it's as long as it's taking care of what I need right now, I'm not going to put a ton of extra time into it because I'm I'm going to speak about like an engineering mindset, but maybe that's misguided. I think that with that, and especially my overthinking and overplanning, I want to try to make everything always be the best that it can be all the time. But boy, does that just add up in hours, and then you'll never be able to do it. So it just sets yourself up for disappointment. And so being able to let go of some of that stuff, website being one of them, has helped me a lot.
Yeah. And you need a release date. If you continue to work on something, you'll never release it. And you need to say, okay, it depends on what you're doing, but I know writers say I'm going to write for a year and then whatever I have is getting released or what, so they have to hold themselves to that. And then it's going to push you to do better within that time and also let go and then start the next thing. And that's how you're really going to grow too. So putting it up, the website for what it's made for right now. And then when you get into any of those electric products, any electrical consumables over the internet, downloadables, any of that stuff, your website's going to drive differently, and you're already looking forward to that, which means that you've got your plan all ready to go, and you're adequately overthinking it like you were planning on. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah. Adequately overthinking. I like
adequately overthinking it. Put that on that's your backup slogan if you need one.
Yeah, so it's a good joke on the back of a shirt someday or something.
Yeah, there you go. So, I mean, you brought up shirts. So you got merch, right? You got hats and everything?
Just the hat. Yep, yeah. That's it for now.
What about you? Do those come to the fairs with you and everything? Is it?
Yeah, they come to shows. I've sold a few online. There was a time this year I had a show that the wind was so bad coming off a lake where the show was that my tent got destroyed, and I was really, really bummed out about that. So now I bought a super nice tent, so I never have to buy another one. But that was just an expense I wasn't planning for this year. And so I sold a bunch of hats by actually getting vulnerable on social media and being like, hey, this is what happened, like super disappointed. I know a lot of you watch me, maybe there's no product in my store that you're interested in, but you wanted to have something Bossman's. It would really help a lot if you could support me by buying a hat. Now, that was like a really uncomfortable thing for me to post. But I also felt like I had to do it. Like something in me was compelling me to do that. And so I did it, and I was very shocked when I think it was less than 15, but definitely more than 10 people just got on there. And then the next couple of days I sold some hats.
That's nice.
But mostly what the hats were for at the beginning was just so when I'm on social media, I've got my own on. And the people who have helped me get my business to where it is today, they always get a hat. It's the minimum thing I can do right now as a thank you, but also people who really support what I'm doing, and they're going to wear it, and it's going to start a conversation hopefully. So they're also helping me that way.
Right.
So that's really what the hat is about. Someday I'm getting more and more feedback oh, I really like the cat, and they just want more things with the cat on it. So I'm hoping for shirts soon.
That's awesome. Yeah, the reason I asked is I knew you were wearing it, so I thought I'd ask. Prime question. But also I just put orders out. I've got orders going for hats, t-shirts, and sweatshirts. So sweet. I'm committing to the brand either way, and I already have, but I want to be able, like you're saying in the videos and in any posts, represent the brand, wear it. You can wear it out. It could, maybe nobody asks you about it. Who's around, who's in public asking about random people's hats, right? But it's still just visibility. Yeah. And slowly over time, stuff can happen. So I just sent a mass text out to basically everybody in my contacts at the time. And it was hey, I'm making shirts, sweatshirts, and hats. If you want one, we'll put you on. It'll help the quantities. So no pressure, but if you want one, now's the time. And you got some friends to kind of hop on to help me get some shirts. That way I can have 8 shirts that I just only wear that shirt in the shop. So if you see me wearing the same shirt every day in the shop, just know that I have 8 of them and they're clean. But overall, I just want to be able to have the brand and try to just have it be a point of conversation more often with the people in real life that are more likely to buy than some someone on Instagram who lives across the country or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still terrible at like bringing business cards with me places I go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have my whole stack on the desk here, so
Nice. Yeah, you're more prepared than I am in that way.
they're not in my pocket though, so that's the problem. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's that live branding that can get a little hard because I've introduced myself as a woodworker a couple times, kind of as a joke. It's kind of fun because I'm an engineer, right? So meeting new people, my wife will say, "Hey, this is my husband Matt," and I'll go, "Hey, nice to meet you," whoever. And then, "What do you do?" "Oh, I'm a woodworker." And then she'll smack me. And "Okay, I'm an engineer, but hey, I'm a woodworker."
Yeah.
So it's kind of just that mindset of the brand and trying to keep that rolling. So I don't know if you do anything similar, but you're already a woodworker. So
yeah, so that is my full time. I mean, I think I still, I still feel hesitant to be like, oh, I'm a full time woodworker. And like, what I find is, um, it's hard because when you say it, people aren't necessarily excited because there's so many different things that woodworking can be. So it's like, oh, like, yeah, I don't want. It's tough. Kind of like what you're saying. It's tough when I don't know what people are going to assume about that when I say the thing, which shouldn't matter. It should only matter what I think, but that's not the reality all the time.
Right.
And so it always helps, like when people ask, like to just pop up my Instagram real quick, and like as I'm saying, hey, I'm a woodworker, I do this full time. I'm like, and here's what I do. That always makes me feel good about what I'm doing and engages people because it is something. It's different than what you think about when somebody just says, hey, I'm a woodworker. My product doesn't necessarily look like that, and so that helps. I don't know if that answered your question. But
no, that makes sense. It's and then when they see it, they know the right questions to ask. If they're outside of woodworking, they might not know you're making furniture. They might think you're a carpenter. I don't know. There's a lot of different. Are you framing houses or are you making cutting boards and super delicate and intricate gaming tables? So like, what's the actual product here? So, I mean, that's part of it, showing the pictures. But I would challenge you. This is going to be super vulnerable, and I've never done this, but it's an idea.
Okay.
Next time, ask for their Instagram. I'll DM you a post because then they might. I don't know the right way to say it, right? Like
that's super good.
You got to workshop that, but then they might know they're going to not have to remember your name. It's going to be in their DMs, and then they can follow you, or they can think about it more, or any of that.
Have them open up their Instagram to see what I do.
Or they can just tell you their username. Hey, what's your Instagram? I'll send you something I'm working on my Instagram. I'll just, I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of different ways. I think that's a great idea. I think one of the things that it's slightly tangential, but one of the things at my last show is there's somebody who I've seen a few times at shows, and so we kind of know each other now, which is cool. Start to build a community around that too. Awesome. But she had a sign that was like, follow me here. And like, I can't believe I didn't have that at my booth immediately to just be like, here's the QR code, like, check it out, follow me now. Yeah, I need to create more opportunities to share what I do in that type of way. So that's a great suggestion, and it is vulnerable.
Super vulnerable.
It is the way I think about it and look at it and value myself as of today. Yeah, it's a super good thing to start thinking about.
It's almost like asking for somebody's number, so you got to figure out the right wording on how you want to do it. But it's just an idea on something you could do, and it's coming from a guy who's in a deep Instagram plateau right now. So I'm trying to bust out of that. But
what does a plateau mean to you on Instagram?
It means that I need to, like, what do you mean by what does it mean to me?
Well,
like, what action do I need to respond with?
Or? What is the feedback that you took in, or the data that you took in to come to the conclusion that I'm in a plateau right now?
Oh, okay. Simple numbers. I haven't gotten many followers in the last 4 months.
Okay.
So
yeah,
I'm plateaued.
It can feel like a plateau. I doubt it's a real plateau.
It's a plateau. We don't got to get into numbers, but it's a plateau. So we're trying to figure it out. And then being in a plateau, it makes you predisposed to not want to post or take the time during the project when you're sweating and you're screwing something in uncomfortably to stop, set your camera up, keep doing that.
Yeah.
Get the
And
shot.
the thing that like social media does when you're with it, like running your own business and posting on it, is like, I assume you have a business page so you get all the insights and whatnot.
Yep.
So that's good. Any business owners out there, definitely get a business account. But so like you definitely learn right away that when you have momentum, you need to keep that momentum up. And then when you don't have momentum, it feels like no matter what you do for a while, it doesn't equate to anything. And so that's
Right.
you got to like figure out the algorithm. You got to know, you got to stay consistent. And then you start asking yourself all these questions of like, am I posting the right content? And like, there's a lot that goes in there. We should talk about just social media sometime.
And I mean, we hit social media for a while today, but everything kind of comes back to that because what we're doing right now is meant for social media. Literally, what the podcast we're recording right now, that's the intention. So that's what our mind is on too. But you brought up, you think about, am I posting the right content? I always think about the time because I'm working in free time.
Yeah.
Every hour is free hour. So if I'm not doing the project and I'm recording and it doesn't yield any followers or sales, that's a waste of time in my book. In reality, it's probably not because I'm building my portfolio. I'm, and then all that kind of stuff. I'm showing the authenticity on Instagram, or at least that's my goal. So I have to keep that in the front of my mind when I'm going to make a post, not just, hey, I haven't posted this week, I got to throw something up. That's the hard part.
It's kind of, we're kind of doing full circle from the beginning of the conversation today. Is like, what's the difference between external and internal validation of the thing, right? Like, and external matters when it's your business, and like for me, it's part of my livelihood, and like it becomes a bigger thing than we would logically say that it needs to be. But there's a lot that goes into it, and there's a lot of feelings and emotions, and it's hard to manage all the time. But we have to do it, so it's just part of it.
Every post comes with it, so it's just about the next one and how that goes. So
my only advice, and another thing that I've been learning is, try to not serve it so the algorithm does the most to send it to the most reach. Like if you're already thinking about creating your content that way, you're getting further from who you are, unless you can figure out who you are in a way where you're building it together, like those two ideas together. And so like, I'm not saying that it's bad if you do build your content around the algorithm. If that's something that you really enjoy, then do it. But if it's something that's more time that feels like it's getting in the way of you producing or doing the things that you want to accomplish, then focus more on the thing that you want to accomplish and share your story in a consistent way is all you can do. And the algorithm actually probably will like that.
Oh, they will reward that. Yes.
Yeah.
The all high algorithm, as they call it, that thing's always changing. So it's hard to, it's like the stock market. You can only predict it so much. And then you got to, at some point, just do something.
Play your own game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I literally think we could talk about social media forever. And I think we could talk about the nerves behind both posting on social media and making the website. All really good topics that I didn't even know we'd get into today. So I'm glad the conversation went there. Is there anything you want to touch on what happened in the last week or what you got planned for the next week before we close out?
Not really. I'm just going to keep working on the table, and that takes me all kinds of places. I did want to just like wrap up with like, I'm still super excited to be doing this with you, and like it's fun to. I think we said the word vulnerability a lot of times today, and like that's super important in what we're doing because it's just like we're trying to be us, right, and figure out what it is that brings us into our best future. And so like it's super fun to have huge open conversations with somebody who's excited about a lot of the same things. So I'm just having a great time and just wanted to reiterate that. So what are you looking forward to this week?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. That I am also really enjoying these. Even as the second one, I know that I'm not worried that I'm gonna run out of stuff to chat with about you for a long time because there's always new projects and always new things we're learning. So it's exciting. For the upcoming week, I just got to get this cabinet moving, man. I'm on that. Part of the reason I was talking about the finishing process and do you speed up toward the end and everything is because I'm in the finishing process of this bent lamination cabinet, and I've got one more piece to glue up, and then I have all my components ready to go. And it's about sanding and finishing. And I have a tendency to rush toward the end here, and I just need to sit back, let it ride, and just do the work and do it in detail. So I'm just always trying to remind myself of that. And I think, or at least from what I can see, you do that well. So I was interested to see what your finishing process is like. So that was good content for me, selfishly.
Sure. I like how you said from what you can see, because I think the reality would be different than what you've heard and seen so far. But
I know we all have those moments. Yeah, I think we all have. This is what I would like to show that I try to emulate, and then it's what we actually do in the shop, where if there's a camera on me at all times, you'd see me scrambling sometimes,
Oh, yeah.
Or whatever. So for sure.
Well, very cool. Yeah. Let's do it again.
Let's do it again. I appreciate the conversation and the time, and I look forward to the next one.
Absolutely, man.
See you on episode 3.
See you there.
Later.
Thanks for tuning in this week. We'd be having these conversations with or without you because we get a lot of value out of this and we learn and grow together, but we're glad that you're here as well.
Yes, please let us know what you think of the podcast by leaving a review or a rating, but also comment or share with your friends in the woodworking or small business community. I'm Matt from Whiskey Woodshop.
And I'm Brian of Bossman's Boutique.
Thanks for
listening.